This episode of Fern and Friends is brought to you by our sponsors at Island, Mechanized AI, and Torres Event Management. Good day, friends, and welcome back to another edition of the Fern and Friends podcast, which is part of the Fern Effect. Tyrone, good brother, are you there?
Hi, Fern. Yes, I'm right here. Glad to be back with you. The family is doing well. It's graduation time, and it's been great seeing my nieces mature into future STEM leaders. I took some great pictures. I'll share with you after our show. So who are we chatting it up with today?
Well, we have another great leader in the AI space, Mr. Bradon Rogers, Chief Customer Officer from Island. Can you do a lookup on Bradon and introduce him to our friends?
Sure thing. Let me look up our guest, Bradon Rogers. All right. First search is pulling up a few interesting details. I'm going to double-check on LinkedIn now as well. Okay, this is shaping up to be a great conversation. Today on Fern and Friends, we're talking about the future of work, the future of security, and honestly, the future of how business gets done. Joining us is Bradon Rogers from Island. They're helping redefine the enterprise browser and reshaping how organizations think about secure productivity in the AI era. From distributed workforces to AI-enabled workflows, Bradon sits right at the intersection of technology, leadership, and transformation. And today, we're unpacking what leaders need to know next. And here's a fun tidbit. He's an Auburn University alum. War Eagle!
What? Oh my Tyrone. This will be interesting. All I can say is, roll Tide. Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of Fern and Friends podcast. I'm here with Bradon Rogers, who's the Chief Customer Officer of Island IO. Bradon, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Fern, good to see you. How are you doing today?
Good to see you. You know what? I'm sensing a little of a southern drawl from you. So where do you hail from?
A little bit. So I live in Auburn, Alabama. Lovely Auburn, Alabama, home of the Auburn Tigers. I'm about 3 blocks off of the campus of Auburn University. So see all my Auburn regalia behind me on the walls here. So I'm a big Auburn fan, and I sense something in your world that maybe you don't love Auburn so much, huh?
You know what? I'm a New Yorker, so it's a little odd, but I'm a Roll Tider. Roll Tide. Roll Tide.
There you go.
So come August, we're gonna be at odds, but we're not at odds today because today we are talking about what is happening at Island. We're talking about enterprise browser capability. We're talking about what's happening in the world. So you know what? This podcast really speaks to how you use AI every day. And because I've got some great sponsors, thank you Island IO for sponsoring the Fern and Friends podcast. We appreciate your partnership. We appreciate you believing in this short form podcast that's quite punchy and we get right into it. But we really wanted to kind of veer, because I've really been talking to everyday people about AI every day, but now I want to kind of take and elevate the conversation to what's happening at the enterprise level and why is Island leaning into this whole space of enterprise browsers. So why don't you introduce yourself, give us a little bit of your background, and then dive into why this is so important and why Island is leaning into this now at the enterprise browser scale.
Yeah, so I'm Bradon Rogers, Chief Customer Officer, as you mentioned before. Been in the industry. I've got a lot of gray hair to go along with it for 25
You're a
plus
handsome
years.
gentleman. What are you talking about?
I'm good with it. It doesn't bother. I'm not coloring it, so I'm good with it. So, but at the end of the day, there's a story with each one of those gray hairs. A lot of them have to do with some operational environment or something we dealt with somewhere in the past. But I've been working across IT and cybersecurity for quite a long time, and working with all of the status quo of technology that have been around. Many of these technologies have been around for 20 plus years. AI is really fascinating for a lot of reasons. And, the speed at which we see innovation happening right now, it's absolutely remarkable. It's a very, very special time to be alive right now, because we're going to see an entire evolution. Like these types of revolutions don't happen very often in lifetimes. And there's been very few of these, and the Industrial Revolution is a perfect example of that. But we're seeing one of those, unfold in front of us right now. And you asked about the enterprise a moment ago. The enterprise is facing this as well. what does that mean for the future of the work in their environment? And you hear a lot of different variances of what that's going to do to the workforce. But the reality is that AI can be a very powerful assistive vehicle to the workforce that the organization has. You can take, you see today with the developers, a lot of organizations are talking about the demise of the developer, and the reality is that's not happening. What you're seeing in a lot of these organizations, there's more headcount than ever for those folks, but they're able to generate the power of what 10 people could develop at the end of the day. And so, organizations are wrestling with what that means for them right now. Some are very early in their journey, and they're trying to figure out, like, they've got users and others bringing various AI tools and resources to the table, and trying to wrap their hands around it. And some are more mature in their journeys, where they're already leveraging automation and leveraging the whole world of agents in their universe, for assisting their workforce, across the work that they do every single day. So, but there's a lot of promises, an immense amount of potential, and I don't have a doomsdayer type of view like a lot of folks may have around that. I see people every single day, people that were, doing a great job as it were, and all of a sudden they're absolutely doing amazing jobs, when they put AI at their side at the end of the day and getting rid of some of the menial things in their worlds that otherwise were consuming time that were really not a good use of time in the first place. But orgs are wrestling with it across a big spectrum of the journey. And at the end of the day, some orgs are early and some are late, and some of them are in the middle at the end of the day. And it's fun to engage in this conversation specifically in these months as we're going through into the next year right now.
So Bradon, let's talk about these different organizations. Is there one industry that is a laggard versus one that is in front? So I came from the CPG space, spent 30 years at PepsiCo, but you now are spanning across financial services, life sciences. Is there any one industry that you say, hey, they're really leading, and you don't have to give away any company names if you want, but just an industry that has said, you know what, I get it, I understand it, and I'm going to fully embrace it and go to scale?
Yeah, look, I wouldn't call any industry a laggard as a whole industry. I mean, in every industry, there's orgs that are more advanced and orgs that are slower to adopt. And there's in many cases, it's not always just political or stagnation. Sometimes there's actually logical reasons why they hold stuff back for the things they do. Because you think about if you're in healthcare, you got to be very delicate. You can impact lives and you can impact patient care in the process. So you have to be very careful when innovation comes on board to make sure it is in a position that can live up to the expectation and the standard of care that we have for patients. So that, there's the mission that they're on is quite different than an org that's manufacturing widgets.
Right.
So at the end of the day, you certainly see certain industries, they get ahead of the curve in terms of innovation. Financial services, is often one of the leading industries when it comes to any type of innovation. But you see very advanced practitioners in a lot of financial services firms that are very deep into the mechanics of AI, the back end resources. You saw that even in the work with Mythos as Anthropic is releasing Mythos. They didn't include a lot of organizations in that, but one of the orgs they did include was one of the largest financial services firms on the planet, one of the most important. And there's a reason behind that. So at the end of the day, we certainly see financial services. Healthcare is leaning in. Healthcare a lot of times is very cautious. We see healthcare leaning in, obviously, in a lot of areas. Especially in advanced research. There were some really interesting announcements yesterday, from one of the particular AI labs around, their world of pivoting a big part of their work around advanced medical care, but using AI in the foundation of that. Because you can imagine, the AI can help unearth insights that could help, prolong, the lifetime of a human being, or provide new treatments that we didn't see originally. So there's a lot of potential there. So you definitely do see certain industries that are leaning really heavily into it. Again, financial services always does that with innovation. It's probably the most innovative industry on the planet with the most advanced practitioners as well, quite often.
So let's pivot just a little bit. When I was at PepsiCo, BYOD was always a big deal. And I know it's one of the solutions that Island provides is in the BYOD space. And it really isn't a trend anymore. Like 95% of the industries, already allow it, but still there's this kind of, security kind of threat around it. And so how do you guys help close that gap around the BYOD solutioning?
Yeah, look, BYO has been a discussion for 20 plus years.
That's what I'm saying.
It's been around for ages.
Right.
And it's almost cliche in some regard. It's a little bit of a cliche. And there are orgs that have rolled out BYO programs. And I would say, without a doubt, most orgs have rolled out BYO programs with this unhealthy tension that you're kind of leaning into, which is, what do we do here? Because it's BYO. There's this line we've got to live by, which is the minute we go over that line, we're being too assertive, and it's not BYO anymore. It's our device. We're managing it, and the user's uncomfortable because it's no longer their device anymore. But if we don't lean hard enough into it, then our assets can be at risk.
Right.
And so, for ages at this point, the mechanics never empowered something where you could actually straddle that fence perfectly well. The mechanics always went one way or the other. And, someone had to sacrifice something. There was an uncomfortable trade-off. One of my favorite use cases in Ireland is, taking unmanaged devices and, letting people grab a device off the shelf, and whether it be a BYO or a third-party device with a BPO or some other entity that's using a device that our org may not manage, and showing the power of how we can onboard them and give them seamless access, and then live literally on that line where they're using Island to access the key organizational assets, but they're using their personal browser or their organization's browser for their other non-critical or their org's work in the process. So it walks that line because you don't see what they're doing when they're engaging over here. You only get audit and engagement with the company applications that are in that island, and you use the island as the, think of it like almost like a portal into the universe of the organization. It is the window into that organization's resources. When you're outside of that, there's no audit. So again, it walks a really perfect balancing act. It's a very common starting point is unmanaged devices amongst many, many use cases, but unmanaged is an Achilles heel for a lot of orgs.
So what's the secret sauce? How long have you been with Island, and what's the secret sauce of the organization?
Yeah, so I've been here for 5 years now at this point.
Okay, awesome.
Since the early days of the journey here, and there's a lot of things. Honestly, there's a lot of things that are special about it. I could call out. First of all, and it would be cliche to say this with a lot of orgs, but I think this is really meaningful here. The product and engineering teams are exceptionally unique. It's the most talented, gifted group of people I've ever worked with in my career. And, just the ability to deliver capabilities, like average delivery time of features is 21 days.
Oh, wow.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
What kind of testing y'all doing over there?
Yeah, so it's, and that's the power of what the team's built from an automation. So, the whole world, and the AI helps us even more in that universe as we're building, that universe. But that is a big secret sauce for us. We don't treat those people like they're some shadow organization hiding behind the curtain somewhere, like in a lot of companies. You don't know who the engineers are. You don't know the product people. They're deeply engaged with our customers, learning. And as they learn the real world things of how people use, they're helping craft capabilities that meet the customer where their need is. And that's one example. But there's many other technology examples, like the architecture of Island, incredibly unique. I don't have to break and inspect SSL to get visibility. I don't have to backhaul traffic, all that stuff that we've had to do traditionally. I don't have to push pixels across the internet like VDI and stuff like that as well. So just a lot of things that make us unique, and that architecture is the foundational thing that lets us, we use the phrase, be tactically strategic. Being very tactical in solving a given use case, but those same mechanics that are tactically solving that use case
are the strategy.
Very strategic to solve the next thing and the next thing and the next thing with the exact same architecture.
Well, you know what, Bradon, you said it all right there. And I know that Island's a fantastic organization. It is growing. The world's leading enterprises run on Island. So thank you so much for sharing your perspectives and going quick and punchy deep into what's happening in the world of enterprise browsing. And we will see you next time, and we'll see you on the other side.
Fern, that was fun, but we needed more time. You and Bradon were really cutting it up. My recap of today's discussion is this. AI isn't replacing people. It's helping people do more, faster, and with greater impact. The organizations leading in AI are the ones learning how to balance innovation with security and trust. And at the enterprise level, the future is all about giving people seamless access without sacrificing protection.
Bradon, appreciate your insights around enterprise browsers, BYOD, and sharing the secret sauce within Island. Love this company and appreciate their sponsorship. Island, the world's leading enterprises run on Island. Okay, friends, thank you for listening. Join us next week at Fern and Friends, and check out our new YouTube channel, The Fern Effect.